Hello, Facebook world. Hello, world of Chicago. Hello, everybody out there in ships at sea, people up in Zion, people down in Shanahan, and maybe John from DeKalb, maybe Louis from Zion, and Heidi from Louisville. Who knows who's watching us today? But we're going to have a really cool show. I haven't done a Puddin'head Press Live video for quite a while because, regular life gets in the way of poetry often. Hey Mary, how are you? Thanks for watching. And anyways, tonight we got some really cool guests. We have Jeff Helgeson, and we're going to talk about his upcoming Zoom play that he's doing for Yippie Fest. We have Kathleen Schandelmeier. She's going to be talking about the 30th anniversary of the Beach Poets. So we're going to be doing that. And okay, why can I not see myself yet? Anyways, I'm looking for myself. We're going to have Mike Puican talking about his new book, Central Air. I hope that's going the right way, because I can't change it right now because we've started. Anyways, and then we're going to have Lynn West talking about the Highland Park poetry reading at the Supek Cabin. Right now it's the only live poetry reading that there is. Only live poetry reading that there is in Chicago. And I don't see myself yet on Facebook, but I know I'm on Facebook. And I can't see the discussion by people. Jeffrey Wayne Helgeson likes my video, so there is my video. Hey, Mr. Jeff, I got to do some maintenance kind of stuff here. I have to share this video. Share. I have to share this video. Share now. Interestingly enough, this is not letting me do share to a friend's timeline. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of maintenance here. I want to apologize for this. We're going to have Jeff Helgeson up within 5 minutes, and we're going to put Jeff Helgeson. We're going to share this on Jeffrey Helgeson, our first guest timeline. We're going to share this on Kathleen Schandelmeier. And now we're going to put this on Mike Puican's timeline, if we could find it. Okay, and our last guest is going to be Lynn West, and we're going to share it on her timeline. So we've shared this to all our guest timeline. No, Puddin'head Press is still here. We've published 3 books by Jeff Helgeson, and who's going to be our first guest. And Jeff is doing an upcoming play. So if you want to find out more information about Jeff Helgeson, go to www.puddin'headpress.com or puddin'headpress.net, or just search for the Puddin'head Press, because we're all over the place, and you could link up on us a whole bunch of different ways. So if you want to interested in Jeff's book, and then as we bring up a guest, I'll talk a little bit more about their books. Like I said, I've been pretty busy lately, but due to popular demand, a lot of people asked me to keep on doing the show. So I decided to at least do a couple more episodes, and hopefully it won't get super busy again. Hey Peter, how are you? And I hope Sheila Donovan's with us, and I hope Sheila Donovan wants to join me for a glass of wine. Today I got some Barefoot Cabernet. That's what I'm drinking tonight. So, yes. Hey, Lydia, thanks for coming back. And we got a couple of people on the line, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a solely audio guest show. So let's go and call a poet. Hey, Judith. Thanks for listening. And we're going to have Jeff on in a second. Got Jeff on right now. I'm going to put Jeff on speakerphone.
And I'm going to take you on Facebook so that we don't get feedback.
Yeah, we get that ugly feedback when you're doing Facebook and talking to me at the same time. I make people give feedback.
I try to do that myself. Well, good evening. And how are you, Mr. Getchik?
I'm okay. I'm busy. I had a couple last-minute phone calls, but I did get in touch with every guest, so we have a show going on.
All right.
And if anybody can't...
I'm honored to be a participant.
If anybody can't hear us, can you let us know? And we'll try to do something else about the volume.
I can always yell louder.
You could always yell louder. I could yell louder, too. But then the dog upstairs will hear... Dog upstairs! Anyways, I'm here having a glass of wine, talking to my friend Jeff, and you have
enviable.
How many plays have you done in Chicago?
Oh,
100?
A dozen.
A dozen?
Yeah, at least.
Okay.
15 to 17 total. Most of them have been done in Chicago, at least originally.
Mm-hmm. And then you've had some.
I know at least a dozen have had full production. Some of them went elsewhere.
Would you consider your upcoming play a full production?
It is, and it's going to be a very interesting production. You know that we had the experience with Bloomsday this year of going virtual, and we connected with T. Gerard Jamaros and his Mobile Wave Films to make that possible. Well, this time we're doing a similar project, but seeing the way the technology worked, we are doing what I'm calling, at least in the current form, a Zoom symposium or a Zoom session. I titled the play Zoom Session, actually, because I thought Zoom Symposium was a little too pretentious, but I'd like to reconsider that. But anyway, we put it into the Yippee Fest from August the 14th through August the 16th, scheduled to be announced under the title Zoom Session. And we use the technology just like we did with Bloomsday, where we have different people appearing on the screen at different times, and sometimes in a group, like in a Zoom meeting. So it looks a little bit like the beginning of the Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares at times, and then at other times it is the individual speaker on camera alone. So it's going to have the feel of a Zoom meeting, and it's also going to have, thanks to Gerard's good efforts, a little more polished sense. So it'll be sort of like a cyber movie.
So it's not actually, you're actually not filming it off of Zoom. You're doing a hybrid kind of thing. So it's actually not just a play put on in Zoom.
Right. We're not doing it live for the festival. We're making a recording, as we did with Bloomsday. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing is we've already read the play through one time after some development, so actors had some input. So it really went through kind of a workshop, a virtual workshop process. And then last Friday, we taped a full read of the show so that he's got a template to work from. And now what we're doing is we're picking up individual scenes between two people or monologues that he'll splice into that larger footage, so that it will be a more highly produced than if we And it starts out with, the people arriving and one person coming on and finding that there's nobody that's joined the meeting yet, going away, and then the host trying to figure out what happened to the person who was on the screen but isn't visible, and then they have a little dialogue, and then the other people start coming on, and pretty soon there are 9 participants in this kind of open-ended discussion. And it is literally, it's based on Plato's Symposium, which means that everybody gets an opportunity to, have a monologue and express his or her point of view about things.
So you're simulating a Zoom meeting. You actually...
Exactly, right.
You actually are going to, going right now at 7:30, you're going to be filming some of this.
I'm going to be filming 2 of the bookend scenes, the opening section and the closing section with Lori Roberts. Lori had been in Bloomsday about 2 years ago, wasn't available this year, but she's teaching at Carthage College I think it's in Kenosha, and electronically it's easier for her to participate. So we got her back, and Sarah Saperstein, who had done some projects with me in the past, mostly from Red Twist Theater, Barbara Button, Valeria Rosario, Johnny Garcia, and Jonard Washington,
okay,
as well as Gerard Jamaros, and myself.
Now, after Yippie Fest, this will be available on Gerard's YouTube channel, correct?
That is right now the plan. I've also saw a New York theater company that was requesting a Zoom script, so I've sent it to them, and it may or may not, this one may or may not be continually available. We're going to put it up on YouTube. We're going to have it there outside the festival. But then if the other company objects and pays me money, then I'll go with them.
This is Jeff Helgeson. He has a new play coming out for Yippie Fest. It's called Zoom Session right now.
Correct.
It's called Zoom Session right now. It's based on Plato's work.
Yep.
Plato's Symposium. And it's going to be coming out. We don't have a date yet for that, do we?
August 14th through the 16th is the festival.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins at noon on Friday and runs continually until 6 in the evening on Sunday. The premise is it's derived from what had for many years been the Abby Hoffman Theater Festival. Abby Hoffman Died for Our Sins Theater Festival out of the Mariachi Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And that went on for 28 years. And then when the Mariachi Theater lost its space and Rich Katowski was no longer going to be maintaining the festival, some people who had participated for a number of years decided that they wanted to continue it. So it became the Yippie Fest, since Abby Hoffman had been the leader of not the hippies, but yippies. And it takes place in the anniversary weekend of Woodstock. So the idea of rock around the clock, 24 hours a day, for the 2-day festival is the premise. And typically, you get a schedule where you're in one primetime spot and one less prime spot, like an evening show and then perhaps a matinee. And sometimes you end up, scheduled in the middle of the night since it goes around the clock.
But it's probably going to be scheduled for a couple different productions, so a couple different times.
Because it's going to be virtual, they'll get the Dropbox video, and then they can put it into the calendar whenever they want.
Okay.
So we'll at least get one in a prime time slot, and then they may run it again, in the middle of the night or in a matinee slot on Saturday or Sunday.
Now, I'm assuming that if we just went and looked for Yippie Fest,
Right.
if it, Yippie Fest Chicago, we would be able to find it easily.
Yes, you would. Once they post the schedule. I mean, their website is up already, so you can see the announcements and you can see, they describe the weekend. They have some. They'll be hosting it out of Prop Theater over on Elston Avenue. So there'll be a live host who will be introducing, things. Sort of, if anyone is old enough to remember the format of the Garfield Goose Show, Fraser Thomas was the host, and he introduced the various cartoons that were going to be run with a little interaction with Garfield and the rest of that menagerie.
Okay. Sounds like...
That's really showing my age, Dave.
Garfield Goose. No, Jeff, I mean, Garfield Goose, it went off the air about 10 years ago, I think, or something like that. So.
It went off the air about 40 years ago, maybe 50. Anyway. That's the plan. So there'll be a host, they'll be making the introductions, and then they'll be running the show on this sort of revolving schedule. And the way that this, it's not going to be a repeat of the arguments from Plato and Socrates and so forth. It's really a contemporary reflection of the symposium. And the way that it works out is an experimental theater company got the idea of doing an adaptation of Albert Camus' The Plague to have something contemporaneous and relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic and so forth. And the different members of the company feel that there are more important issues that COVID-19 sooner or later is going to be addressed, and the underlying theme of racism is the one that needs to be acted on. And so it becomes finally this discussion of various social issues, and eventually, the wise philosopher that I get to be, strategies for addressing them, and then sandwiching all of that in between beginning and the ending. There is a narrative of the relationship. The artistic director, who is a former student of this philosophy instructor, and their relationship. So by the end, we get a story, we get some observations about current events, we get a little bit of philosophy and ethics, and kind of a drama that unfolds around it all.
You tend to, in your fiction and your plays, to use a lot of classic Greek models for your work.
This is true. My first play, Ithaca, retelling of the Odyssey 21 years after the fact, and the restlessness of Ulysses to set back to his adventurous life. And my Sins of the Father was sort of a reshaping of Achilles and Patroclus and their relationship. And yes, it has happened
Thresholds
with some frequency.
Thresholds was a basis for Dante. I remember.
That's true.
You have
yes.
You have a suspense novel also, an unpublished suspense novel.
I do. In fact, I'm reworking that. Not quite as we speak, but I have I couldn't find the electronic version, and so I had to dig out the 200 and some page manuscript from my files in the basement, and I'm revisiting it. I've moved into what seems like retirement, so I've got time on my hands. Why not? And yes, it is based on another sort of classical, mythological theme, which is a golden bough as described by James Frazier. So now I really sound pretentious.
Okay, well, this is Jeff Helgeson. He's the author of Thresholds. He's the author of Sign of the Times, and a couple other books and numerous plays. And are there any questions before I let Jeff off the hook here, off the line here? Yeah. Hi, Patricia. I've gone back to a more simplified version of what I was doing before right now, and that's why we're just doing a speakerphone reading now. Well, Jeff, I'll let you get back to your play.
All right.
Because you're going to be live.
Thank you, Dave.
You're going to be live in about 8 minutes.
It's a pleasure to be on with in your show, and someday we'll do it live, right?
Yeah, and someday I'll have my visuals back.
All right.
Anyways,
take care. Thanks for having me, buddy.
I'm going to have Kathleen up next. Hold on a second. We have a question, and it says, the question is, such wonderful work, Jeff. You are brilliant. Somebody said you were brilliant.
Well, I won't question that.
Okay. Anyways, I'm going to let you off, and I'm going to bring Kathleen on in a little while.
All right. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, the original concept of my Puddin'head Press Live thing was to have people on the speakerphone because I didn't have any equipment. And I went on to have a live broadcast of a Zoom meeting. So I had visuals for all the different poets, all the different performers. And we had some really good readings, but I was having a problem with my technology, because I was using technology that's like 20 years old. We're going to have Kathleen Schandelmeier up here in a minute, and then we're going to have Mike Puican, and they're going to have Lynn West talking about the readings up in Highland Park, so stick around. And Janet Kuiper says, the video is not working and I cannot stay, but thanks for posting through Chicago Poetry Book Review and Icon, my first Dean's book. Anyways, there's right now there's a Facebook Live chat going on too. So there's if you want to join Facebook Live chat and make a couple comments, I'll pass them on to ask our performers about it. So I'm probably going to bring back some more graphics and live video of poets in future readings. But I just said, let's just do this the way we were doing it before with the low tech that I know is going to work. Anyways, I'm going to bring up our next performer. Our next commentator, our next guest. Our next guest is, I'm going to talk about it first. Our next guest is Kathleen Schandelmeier. Kathleen Schandelmeier is a longtime Chicago poet. She used to run a reading at the School Street Cafe. That's where I initially met her. And she transferred, let's call it, that reading from School Street Cafe to North Avenue Beach one year. And I wanted to talk about that. That was 30 years ago. If you go to puddin'headpress.com or puddin'headpress.net, you could buy Kathleen's book, Chicago Phoenix. And we're going to have Kathleen on in about 10 seconds. So let's call a poet. One of the funnier things I did on Puddin'head Press Live, because this is the 9th or 10th presentation of this, is I called the wrong poet. So hopefully I'm calling the right poet this time. And hello, is this the wonderful Kathleen Schandelmeier? May I put you on the air live on Puddin'head Press Live on Facebook? Okay. Okay, somebody else said that the video is not working, but there seems to be people watching it. But maybe people would just hear it. So I'm going to put you on speakerphone. Everybody in the world could hear you.
Oh, boy.
Everyone, this is Kathleen Schandelmeier.
Hi, I'm ready.
Say hi to Kathleen Schandelmeier.
Do you love it? Beach poetry.
Do you miss beach poetry?
Oh, yes, terribly. I really miss it. I miss singing. I miss being with everybody. And it's just such an awesome experience. Of course I miss it.
Well, you're with a bunch of people now. There's a whole bunch of people you know. Patricia McMillan, Peter Pentozzi, Lydia Gomez, Larry Hawley, Mike Puican. There's a whole bunch of people watching you right now. So hey, say hi.
Hi, how awesome.
Bess Sturgis, Judith Kaufman is here. We got a whole crowd, and Jeff Helgeson is going to probably pop back in and take a look at us. And
Hey, Jeff.
this is Kathleen Schandelmeier, author of Chicago Phoenix, published in many different books, many different anthologies. I remember Step Into the Light, for example. You had a wonderful poem in there, and also
a couple, three, I think.
Yeah, Best of Chicago Poetry and a couple other anthologies like that. So, welcome to the show, Kathleen. I'm finally glad I finally got you on here.
Yay!
It's the 30th anniversary of the Beach Poets.
Yes, this summer is our 30th anniversary. What a time to have a 30th anniversary.
I'm going to post a picture on History of Chicago Poetry this week of you reading poetry from 1989 that I found.
Wow, that's something.
It was at the Poetry in the Park in Oak Park, and I'm gonna post a picture of you that I ran across the other day.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and I've known you forever, it seems like.
Yeah, that is quite a long time. I think that was the year I started reading poetry. It was 89.
So Peter Pintozzi says hi, and Patricia McMillian says yay. Anyways, but tell me why you started the poetry on the beach and why you left School Street Cafe.
Sure. Well, Steve Manola had decided that it was too hard hosting a weekly venue and arranged for me to take over as the host of his venue, the School Street Cafe. And so I did. And it was a great experience. Met a lot of wonderful poets that would have met any other way. And then one day, I asked, like Patricia Smith had been one of my features, for example. I'm just trying to think of who is still active now. I had featured at that time. I don't know. It was a while ago. And then, I was going pretty strong. We had 30 people show up. We went to School Street Cafe, and it was a Thursday night, and the place was closed. They wouldn't let us in. They were rehabbing it, and they hadn't told me. Mm-hmm. So here I was with a feature and all these people and no place to go. So, Vince Bolestri, who had been in Kerouac, The Essence of Jack, I asked him to be my mentor. So Vince was mentoring me. And Vince, was like, let's go to the beach. And I was like, okay. So we went to the beach. He said, where would you like to go? And the first thing that popped into my head was the Chess Pavilion because it was lit at night, And so we went over to the Chess. It was a July 1990. I don't remember exactly the date. And so we went out to North Avenue Beach, Chess Pavilion, and we read poetry there. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience. And I did that weekly until School Street opened back up.
You did that. Was it on Thursday nights?
It was on Thursday nights in the beginning, yes.
Okay. But you changed to, I remember it was at night because the lake would close while we were there.
That's right. We were night owls, baby.
I also remember running to the Chess Pavilion when it would rain.
Yeah,
we'd run over the Chess Pavilion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would run to the Chess Pavilion when it would rain. I remember having Mary Hawley out there, and she was like a goddess reading her poetry. I think it was raining. It seems to me that there was traffic going past. I just see her looking so beautiful in the setting sun and the cars driving by on Lakeshore Drive. But if you turned that another way, you could see the lake behind her. It was really quite a dichotomy of energies there.
Mary Hawley remembers reading there herself.
Oh, good. Yay. So then we changed it from Thursday nights to Friday. And I hear Where this person said something very derogatory towards me, being a pregnant woman in a bar. And I wasn't there to drink. I was there for poetry. But, you know, I mean, he was just, it was really insulting. So I decided that I didn't want to have Vincent, of course, around that energy, but I didn't want to quit poetry either. So I just decided to stop going to School Street altogether and just take it to the beach.
I'm glad you did, because the beach became a really historic reading. So the beach has worked out great over the years.
It has. It's been a wonderful, it's so beautiful out there. I really enjoy it. I moved, though, you know, from North Avenue Beach up to Loyola Beach. I think it was around the time Katie was born.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just too much to drag all my children to the beach and then do the parking and then carrying all the stuff that we had. It was so hard for the poets to find parking. And John Dixon had come out to do my poetry reading when I was at North Avenue Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the last year that I was there. And it rained so hard. Daniel X. O'Neill was also featured that day. And it rained so hard, so hard. We went to go recite poetry in the underpass.
Yeah.
And then the water came gurgling up through the sewer grate like the blob.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it started rising. And Daniel hopped on top of Vincent's skateboard, and he had this little suitcase full of poetry with him, and he skateboarded through the water, and I could just see him, just like he was like a jet skier, you know, with the water jetting out from either side behind him. It was, and then once we got to the other side, and we got to my car, there was no room for me because I was pregnant. Maybe I was pregnant with Teo, or maybe it was Katie. I don't know. I just remember I was really big and pregnant. We had a little car.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's packed in the car, and I couldn't fit. And John was like, "Come on, sit on my lap." Sit on my lap. And I was afraid. I was so big. I thought if I sit on his lap, I'm going to break his leg. And I called the next day to see how he was doing, and his wife was just so tickled. She just laughed and laughed. She said, "Was that your poetry reading?" I said, "Yes." And she just thought that was so funny. She said, "He came in looking like a drowned rat."
Now you're not doing it this year.
No, that whole, we have to, with the beach in the city, we have to keep moving. You can't go like sit in a chair and recite poetry. You got to keep moving. Mm-hmm. I thought about like getting the beach poet set tents and having a pole carrier on each one, and we could march around. That would be a little too much. So,
well, the ancient Greeks used to have these walking philosophy symposiums. Maybe we need to have a hiking poetry group.
A hiking poetry reading. That's what I was thinking.
Okay,
the only way you could do it is if we were moving. So we could do like the beach poets on the move.
You're gonna have to start that. Or move it to Evanston. This is Kathleen Schandelmeier. She's talking about the 30th anniversary of the Beach Poets. Kathleen Schandelmeier is the author of Chicago Phoenix, which you could go and purchase on the Puddin'head Press website. And there's also a Chicago Phoenix Facebook page if you guys wanted to like that and connect with Kathleen. We're going to have Mike Puican on in a little while and Lynn West on a little bit later. So,
awesome. What a great lineup.
Are there any questions for Kathleen about the Beach Poets? Or are there any comments for Kathleen about the Beach Poets? I know that a lot of our listeners and watchers have been on the Beach Poets before, including Mary Hawley. She keeps on saying, "Thank you, Kathleen. Hey. Thank you, Kathleen."
I love Mary Hawley. She also wrote an introduction, was it, for my book, Tattoo Screams of Love, which has not yet been published, but is ready to go. Still ready to go. Still ready and waiting. We'll get it there.
Now I'll have to try to come up with funding somehow.
Yeah, we'll have to write a grant or something, Dave.
Yeah,
We'll come up with something.
But nobody wants to give me any money. But if everybody listening, if the 1,000 people listening would buy a copy of Chicago Phoenix, we'd be able to fund it.
Okay. There you go.
Anyways, there's a couple people asking questions, and thank you, Kathleen, for. Patricia McMillan says, "Thank you, Kathleen, for persisting through pregnancies and harassment."
It's true. It's true. I did have a lot of harassment.
We could always move the reading to Evanston.
I thought about that. I actually thought about that. But then I feel like I would lose there's a certain edginess, something nitty gritty about being in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree, and it'd be caving in to the evil virus too.
Right.
Yeah, and we should just rest for a while. But I hope
we could do a big celebratory beach poets event. I figured next year we'll just do it next year.
Well, some people are asking, how could the beach be closed?
Good question.
I mean, but and it's like we had a couple comments. Like it's like, what do you mean they closed the beach? How can they close? How can they close the lake? They closed the lake.
These orange shirts, and I went out there the other day to try and get some sand for. I've been making tire planters. That's been my newest, not a nudist thing.
You're nudist. Okay, so you go out naked and you do tire planters. Okay.
Tire planters. In spare time. So I went out to the beach to get some sand, and I couldn't because there were all these people in orange shirts like yelling at us to get off the beach. Just to walk on the sand. You can't walk on the sand. They're yelling at you.
Yeah, well, the only beach open in Illinois right now is Illinois Beach State Park, I think. The other ones aren't actually
Isn't that all the way up
open.
in Zion?
Yeah, but
isn't that the one where they had like a terrible outbreak recently? I think that they were talking about shutting that one down.
They shut it down on weekends. I think there's other beaches that they're just not enforcing, but because it's state property, they could do it. If you stand in the water, are you still on a closed beach? Yes, I think if you stand in the water, you're still on a closed beach.
Yeah, they won't let you even get close to the water.
You
not get close to the water. In fact, when I went out to the beach, there were these people in the orange shirts, lifeguards out there, and then there's also lots of police officers. I saw a bevy of galloping police officers on their bicycles going by. Lots of police officers, like little groups of police officers. So, and that reminds me, of when I first started hosting my poetry reading on the beach, and the police would drive by, and guess what they would say, Dave?
They'd say, the beach is closed!
Yes, they would. Well, actually, they would say the lake is closed.
The lake is closed.
The lake is closed!
Can you tell us?
How do you close a lake?
Can you explain to us how you close a lake?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have this poem. It goes like this.
Give us a poem.
Squint in the sun, dusk-baked sigh, cars drive on by. As darkness comes and nighttime looms, the lake is closed. Oh, yeah? Says, does it freeze frame like a picture show? Get frozen under feet of snow? Do they take some plastic and seal it off? Pull the plug and drain it up? Oh, close the lake in 7 seas. Sop up the whales and dolphins pee. Do only I wonder why? The lake is closed.
The cops are high. That's a famous poem on the Chicago poetry scene. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna kick you off the air.
Okay.
And I want to get you back in a couple of weeks though to talk about Chicago Phoenix and some other poetry stuff that you've done.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much, Dave, for the invite, and take good care. Peace.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
That was Kathleen Schandelmeier, the host of Poetry on the Beach, and the host. Yes, that's an anti-cop poem. That was a famous Chicago anti-cop poem. Anyways, that was Kathleen Schandelmeier. She's the author of Chicago Phoenix, and she's the MC and organizer of Poetry on the Beach in Chicago. She started off at North Avenue, and she moved over to Loyola Beach, and she'll be back next year. The cops, but who else is going to enforce curfews? Mary Smith. Oh, Kathleen, bye. Anyways, we're going to have Mike Puican up here in a couple minutes, and then we're going to have Lynn West talking about the Shoepeck Cabin. And as far as I know, the Shoepeck Cabin right now is the only live poetry reading going on in Chicago. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want to talk about this really cool book that I got the other day. And the author gave me this. Okay, the author gave me this book to review. It wasn't a bribe. I mean, I had already asked him. And it's a beautiful book by Northwestern University Press that always does a great job. And one of the best things that Northwestern University does is they get their books out there in stores. I mean, they run their own distribution network, and they do a good job of that. So it's not just something that's going to sell on Amazon. You'll be able to go into a lot of bookstores and be able to get this book. One of Department of Natural Resources. Okay, there's a couple conversations going on at one time on Facebook Live, which I don't have a really good time to review, but I'll review them later. I want to thank everybody for watching, though. And I'm going to bring up the author of this book. And he knows I'm going to call him, so I'm going to give him a call. And he was watching a little bit, so he knows what's going on. He knows I'm going to call him, and I just need to find his phone number, and I need to dial the right number. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm dialing Mr. Mike Puican. And we're going to bring him on the speakerphone here in a second. And this is really exciting. I never had him in one of my shows before. Actually, I think hi, Mike. I think I did feature you like a long time ago at Estelle's. Okay, I'm going to put you on speakerphone so the gang could hear you.
Yeah, sounds great.
Hey, gang, this is Mike Puican. He wrote this book.
Hey, guys. Hey.
No, I featured you many years ago at the Gallery Cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't featured you. I mean, at the Gallery Cabaret at Estelle's.
At Estelle's, that's
At
right.
Estelle's, and I think also at the bookstore, the Puddin'head Books back in the '90s.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, I forgot about that.
but I mean, this is the first show of mine you've been on this century, I think.
Yeah. Hope it won't take another century for that to happen again.
Hopefully not, and hopefully I'll have a live show again one of these days. Well, besides this live show, I kind of like this though, and I'm sure you like this. I mean, I was in my dressing room about an hour ago, like 15 minutes before the show. I was in my dressing room relaxing and stuff like that, and they give me wine at this venue and stuff like that. So
nice.
So yeah, I mean it's nice, and the owners let me go as long as I want, so that's cool. Where are you from?
Where am I from? Oh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and when I was 19, it was a real small town. When I was 19, I hitchhiked to Chicago because all I wanted to do was to go to the big city when I was growing up.
And you chose Chicago as the big city?
Yeah, well, there was a lot going on. The revolution was going on in Chicago back then.
Okay.
So, with all the stuff at Grant Park and the Chicago 7, things were hopping. So I wanted to be a part of that.
What was the name of your little town in Pennsylvania?
Mechanicsburg.
I heard of Mechanicsburg.
Oh, come on. No, you haven't.
Yeah, okay. I do a lot of industrial kind of stuff.
Oh.
And there's some industrial painters in Mechanicsburg. I've never been there, but I've sent them emails and mailings and stuff like that.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful town, small, quaint, and I miss being in the Appalachian Mountains a lot, but it still doesn't hold a candle to living in the city and living in Chicago.
So you came to Chicago when you were 19.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a poet when you were 19? Okay, everybody's a poet. Were you a performance poet, actively doing stuff when you came
I
here?
was not doing anything. I was not writing poetry or anything back then. It wasn't until much later that I started writing poetry. It wasn't until I got married and was divorced and went through a terrible divorce and child custody thing, and I was really feeling depressed. And I walked into the hot house, and there it was a Wednesday, and there was an open mic in a feature, and I had no idea this stuff went on, honest to God. And so as soon as I was exposed to that, I was like so excited, and I started going for over a year to all the places, Estelle's.
Do you remember where that? Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, I can't know.
Like
90, I don't know, 94.
94. Okay.
But it was the show that you and Lucy Anderton had, and it was great.
The show
the stage behind the bar.
Yeah, that was Estelle's.
That was great.
I mean, on a good night, we would get 200 people at Estelle's.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
it was bad. It was the place to be.
Yeah, and it was before the internet. Before the internet was big, so we just met there to share news too.
What was the downside of reading at Estelle's?
The downside?
Yeah, there was one downside to reading at Estelle's.
If you weren't sitting at the bar, you didn't have a good line of sight.
No, it's the L train.
The L
train
train
would go by, and you could not hear the poet anymore.
Especially during the summer.
During the summer. Yeah.
But they paid me to do that reading, which was really cool. I took part of that money they paid me to pay the poet, and every poet who read there got a drink. And Carla Yvonne from was the bartender. It was the best place to have a reading in the whole city.
It was great. It was a place to be.
And then they turned the stage into like a hibachi grill or something like that. A place where they're grilling stuff.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too sad.
So, but those were the good old days of Chicago poetry. Yeah. And then shortly after that, the Guild Complex opened up.
Yeah.
And
sure.
You got involved with the Guild Complex pretty early.
Pretty early, yeah. Well, my first feature was a Guild Complex. I don't know when that was. 95, 96. The first time I ever read on stage was at a Guild Complex workshop run by Marvin Tate.
Okay.
And it was a performance poetry workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, I went to all these, maybe I'd want to try this sometime. So we talked for about an hour, and then Marvin had us all get up and go to the box shop, which had an open mic. And so we said, you can't complete this until you go up in the open mic and read a poem.
The Bop Shop was at 1807.
That was the first time I'd ever read.
The Bop Shop was at 1807 West Division, right next to that sandwich shop. The Bop Shop is another one of the classic Chicago blues connect. Okay, hope we're still connected. We lost connection for a second there.
Okay, no, I'm with you.
But I think we're still here. Anyways, you have a new book out. You had a book before. You had a chapbook.
Oh yes, that's right.
What?
That's right. I had a
what was the name of your?
No, it was 2004. That's when it was.
What was the name of your chapbook?
It wasn't Central Air.
Okay.
That's my current.
That's your current book.
It was 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had a poem in there called 30 seconds.
Okay. And that was a self-published chapbook, or was that published by someone?
I won that Guild Complex Prize. Guild has been with me on my career, but there was a chapbook prize. Piachucha.
Okay.
And so when I won that, and so they put that out. So that was a big milestone for me.
Okay. Now, right now we're frozen for a second here.
Oh.
Okay, so we are having a little feed problem here, which I never had when I had something this simple. Okay. Hopefully we're gonna come back. It looks like we're still going, but let's see. Okay, no, we're back on. Okay, we froze and we unfroze. I don't know which one of us did that. But so right now you're a member of the Guild Complex board, right?
I'm on the board. Yeah, I have been for a long time. I was even the president for 10 years. So yeah, I've been real involved. It's a great organization. Everybody knows it. It has featured and given the stage to so many different people.
It's one of the most important things in Chicago.
Yeah, one of the treasures.
I hope everybody gets back on track and we maintain the ground that we've made with the poetry scene. This book is published through this book, Central Air, is published by Northwestern University Press. And Northwestern University Press always does a great job. I like their distribution network too. Northwestern University Press they do distribution for Tiachucha also. This is Central Air, and I'm talking to Mike Puican, the author of Central Air. So, and then we're gonna have Lynn West up in a little while. So everybody stick around. And I was going through this book, and how much, when you work with Northwestern University Press, how much control do you have of the content and the order of the poems?
Well, if I had a set idea for the order, if I felt really strongly about it, they would go along with it.
Is there a board?
Actually, my editor, Pernisha Jones, was phenomenal. She reordered the book in a way that I had never thought of, and it's so much better. And she took 10 poems out, and then she said, "Give me all the poems you have."
Okay.
And she read them all. She pulled about 10 or 12 of those out and put them in the book.
That's a little bit.
And I think it's just great.
That's a little bit with the Puddin'head concept of going through there. I mean, I will accept the manuscript. When I'm accepting a manuscript, I'm really accepting a poet. And then it's like, well, what else you got? And so I mean, so there's a thing with that, but there's something different and unique about the order and what's going on in this book. There's a poem at the beginning that seems to be in a section by itself. Okay, you're the lawyer says poem. Okay, it's a pretty hard-hitting poem, and it's also like really grabs the reader. Okay, and it's in its own section, it seems, at the beginning. Was that your idea? Was that her idea?
You know, it was my idea because I love the last line of this.
I love the last line of this, too.
What's that?
I love the last line of this, too.
Dave, can I read it so everybody could know what we're talking about?
Read it so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Okay, it's called The Lawyer Says. Show me a fireball of desire, a current of wild horses, the unquenched thirst of stone lions. Where's the evidence that stars rise from watery graves or that fish swim in the sleep of school children? The judge looks at her watch. She thinks of her lover's body touched by the morning sun. She could use a cigarette. Suddenly, a lion enters the courtroom. The lawyer's body is lodged between the big cat's teeth. Silence descends on the courtroom as he disappears into the darkness. Fools, he says, your language, it's not dangerous enough.
It's a great poem. It's different than a lot of the other poems in the book. Okay, and it sticks out. It's there at the beginning, and that makes it stick out even more.
Yeah, you know, Dave, I thought of it as sort of my own epigraph. So, you know, sometimes people will have a little something that starts out the whole collection.
Uh-huh.
And so I was thinking of this, and it's sort of a challenge to me. So what's coming? That my language has got to be dangerous enough.
Yeah.
In order to for this to be a good book.
I'm not saying that it's almost a risque move. Okay.
I know. What if I'm not?
Yeah. But I mean, it works, and just having this grab you at the beginning, rather than a quote by T.S. Eliot. I love T.S. Eliot though. He just popped into my head. But I mean, this is like, it's almost like this is what the book is about. Okay, and then you pop into your first poem, and the Gauchos Sing, which is one of your stronger poems, I think. And this was the one that was in Poetry Magazine too.
Yeah, that's right.
This one I saw in Poetry Magazine. I was jealous that you got in Poetry Magazine. That's why I remember this poem from Poetry Magazine.
You know, I've said it for years and years, and rejected by poetry. I was thrilled, sort of the way I'm thrilled having my first book like this.
Now, did you had some kind of Zoom publication event, didn't you?
It's coming up. Not yet. On September 17th, the Guild Complex is going to sponsor my launch party.
Okay.
So I'm going to read a couple of poems, and then Mark Turcotte is going to interview me. He and I are going to have a conversation, and then I'll read a couple more poems. So,
I got to interview before Mark did? Wow.
Yeah.
Mark Turcotte is a Chicago poet. He teaches at DePaul University. He's one of the better poets in the area, actually. He writes a lot of kids' books now. Mark Turcotte has a couple books of his own. I think through Tia Chucha. I think there's at least one through Tia Chucha.
Let's see. One was Northwestern.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that was Exploding Chippewas.
Yes.
And his first one, Feathered Heart, was originally with Marcia Brazo, Carlos Compian's press.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it went to University of Michigan, something like that.
Okay. I don't have Exploding Chippewas, but I have Feathered Heart.
I think I said Chippewas, and I think it's Chippewa.
I don't know. What we'd have to do is we'd have to go to the Puddin'head Press website, and we have to go to the Chicago Poetry. We'd have to go to the Chicago Poetry bibliography section where I list any Chicago poetry book that I could find. Except Mike Puican's book's not there yet because I got to do all this stuff myself. Patricia McMillan is leaving us, and Patricia, thanks for joining us.
Eddie, thanks for joining this. Nice to see your questions.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions that anybody has? Any questions for Mike? Any questions for me? Any questions that the world needs to answer? This is Mike Puican, the author of Central Air, Chicago poet, longtime Chicago poet, member of the Guild Complex, and nice guy.
You're a nice guy too, Dave.
Anything coming up besides the Guild Complex thing on September 17th that we should know about?
I am going to starting in a week, reading one poem from my book each week.
Okay.
On Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do that as a lead up to the launch, which is on September 17th.
Like a countdown.
It's a countdown, yeah. Hey, that's good. Maybe I'll hold numbers up every time.
Mm-hmm. Well, give us like 2 poems, and then I'm getting at Lynn West up here to talk about the Supek Cabin. And
I'm going to do one. It's called Tequila and Steve.
Okay.
After all the bars on Broadway closed, they walked outside. He was the butterman, also known as Steve. She was Susan, but on the weekends went by Tequila. Above them, the sky reared flame-edged over the fire pit called Chicago. What time was it? It was Saturday, and the heat had just begun to arrive. As they walked, he felt his heart sprint off ahead. She was the one who asked the time, but the clock was them. The sun ignited the marble bust ringed by sugar maples, a family pushing in a low-take cart down the street, a tiny spider dangling above her doorway. In her kitchen, a pan sizzled with oil, while faint notes rose from a piano downstairs. The sense of fried eggs and just cut lilacs filled the air, while the back of her neck and a can of beer created a near-perfect tranquility.
Wow. I don't know whether I'm supposed to clap online or not.
Thanks. Why don't I stop there? Why don't I stop with one poem?
Okay, stop with one poem. I usually have people read 1 or 2 poems this isn't a poetry thing about reading poetry. This is a poetry thing about talking about poetry. And anybody have a question for Michael? And I guess not. Anyways, it's on the 17th. I'm gonna do more of these things. Don't do more Puddin'head Press Live. And I think I'd like to bring you back before the 17th just to give a plug for the 17th.
Yeah. Thanks, that'd be nice.
And you know, there's a billion other things that we should talk about. I'd like to know what you think of the role of a poet in today's society is, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to have a little bit shorter of a show today, and I got one more guest I want to bring up, and hopefully by that time I'll have a little bit better video stuff going on. So let me kick you off, and thanks so much for the book, and I'll read more of the book for next time I have you on here, which might be 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being on the show.
Sure.
Okay, bye-bye. We have one more guest on our show tonight. I got my charger back there, and one time during a Puddin'head Press Live event, I had the phone running out of juice, and it became a race on whether I could finish the show before the phone actually died. So that's why I keep on putting it back there. And that's why I put it back there before I introduce the next poet. The next poet I met when she was living out in Westmont, I believe. And she's a singer and been doing some great photography kind of stuff. We used to do a poetry reading on Elm Street. I remember we did in Elm Street by Rush Street, and I remember I had emceed the Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare's Music on Elm Street or something like that. And this woman showed up because she had a job as a singing zombie. And she showed up in her zombie attire to sing at this music open mic we were running on Elm Street. And she does all kind of singing in different churches and with different groups and stuff like that. And she's become a really good photographer. She moved up to Highland Park, and she's been doing a lot of photography up there. There's something special about Highland Park. There's all kind of poetry events always going on at Highland Park. It's been going that way for years, and hopefully she could explain a little bit of that to us. But and she has opened up the first live open mic reading in the Chicago area since we shut down a while ago. And she's going to be running another one coming up in September. So my outside light is going away here. So I want to bring her up on speakerphone. And I press this. And like I said, hopefully I'll dial the right poet. One time on Puddin'head Press Live, I dialed the wrong number, and I actually dialed the number of another poet. Hello, is this the famous poet? This is Puddin'head Press Live. I'm looking to speak with Lynn West. Can you put her on for me, please? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone for when she comes on.
Okay. It's she said she'll be here in a minute.
Okay. Lynn West has been in our Bloomsday production, Puddin'head Press's Bloomsday production, and she played in our Nighttown segment there, and she played in another segment. Anyways, Lynn, are you there?
Hey there, Dave. How are you? Yeah, Dave's
okay.
Not here, but Lynn is. No,
okay.
I'm sorry, that was bad.
Yes. Okay.
How are
It's
you?
okay. It's pronounced. It's pronounced Supek Cabin.
No, Stoopy.
Stoopy Cabin.
Stoopy, right. Stoopy Cabin. And it's in Highland Park, and it's right between the library and the town hall, which is 1707 St. John's Avenue in Highland Park.
What big intersection is that by?
It's close to Laurel and St. John's. It parallels the track.
Okay.
It'd be on the east-hand side of the track.
So
you really can't miss it. It's the only cabin on the block.
So some of our listeners wanted to get up there by public transportation from Chicago, is it by the train station?
Yeah. You just walk across the street. It's right there. So it's really easy to get you.
So if they took the train up to there's only one stop in Highland Park?
It's the Highland Park stop.
And
it's after Braeside, then I believe Ravinia, and then Highland Park.
So they jump on the train, they go to Highland Park, and they go across the street, and they look for the Stoopy Cabin. Stoopy Cabin. Okay, and
it rhymes with poopy.
Okay, Stoopy, and how often do you run this?
I started last month,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really nice. we had a small group, and we were socially distanced. We wore masks and wiped off the microphone, and it was really nice. So I just thought that this would be a nice opportunity to get people together and see each other, because I don't know about the rest of Marie, but it's so hard not seeing people, not going to art shows, poetry readings. So this is an opportunity to be socially distanced outside and to have live poetry.
And the next one is Saturday, August 15th.
It is. And the featured poet will be Kevin Bradshaw, and he's the author of Mischief Making, which is poems of love, laughter, and life. He's a very good poet. Last month, we had Judith Kaufman, who is the founding member of East on Central, and she recited some poetry from a protest from years of the 70s, because there's a lot of parallels of what's going on now in our country with what was going on back in the 60s and 70s. So it was a real nice gathering. And then in September, the Art Center in Highland Park has said that they would really enjoy having reading on their steps. So that would be nice. They've got some beautiful lawn art. So that would be another nice opportunity for people to get together.
Do you have a time or a date or a day for the Art Center at all? Or it's just, this is in planning right now?
That far yet.
Okay. I remember I met Kevin Bradshaw at I think I met him at Jerry Pendergast's reading at the Northside Library. He's a really nice guy. I can't remember what library was that. Albany Park Library. I met him up there through Jerry Pendergast. And I don't know if he ever, no, I don't think he went to our Nighthawk Cafe readings up there. But you MC the show.
I do.
And you pick the features.
Introduce people, and I just picked. There's only been 2 shows, so I just picked 2 people. Judith and I have become real good friends, and she's a wonderful poet and has been very active in the community. So I just thought that she would be a wonderful guest to have for the first reading. And Kevin came to the show, and he's a dear man and a very good poet, published. And so I asked him, and he was thrilled.
Now the 15th is the 3rd Saturday. Is that
correct? Okay,
so is the next one going to be the 3rd Saturday of September?
It's a wonderful idea.
Okay. I'm sure that wasn't my idea. Okay. But is it your idea to have one the 3rd Saturday in September?
It just happened to be then. I kind of closed my eyes and pointed and thought, gee, there's a few weeks in between, and it just happened to be. So if that's what's happening, then maybe I'll follow suit.
Okay, now you could have poets there. Is there musicians that show up to this thing?
No, we've had some live music. I have somebody that's doing the PA system who's a very good guitarist, and he's been pumping some music. But I'd like to have some music. I think that would be nice to do. Don't have anything scheduled, but maybe if anybody would like to come, anybody out there would like to come and toot their flute, feel free.
Would you be willing to share a email or some kind of thing that people could get more information on this?
Certainly.
Will you share it with us?
I will do that. I will send it to you, and then if you could forward it, I would be most appreciative.
Okay. So you do sing at this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Anytime there's some microphone, I do enjoy singing a little bit here and there, and it seems to me that people like it, so I keep doing it. If not, they start throwing tomatoes, I'll stop.
You can't stop Lynn from singing.
Oh
I
my mom and dad met in choir.
I still remember you as
My brother has sung. We grew up actually going for rides in the country, which at that time was Oak Brook, and the whole family would sing. That would be we lived in Cicero, and we pile up in the old Pontiac. We called her Betsy Blue. Yes, Betsy Blue, and then Betsy Blue number 2. And we would all get together and go to Oak Brook and feed the horses on the old Butler farm.
Now, Lynn is the 4th most famous poet from Cicero. So that's one of her distinctions. Behind me, Johnny Mazulowitz, and Ernest Hemingway, and then Lynn comes.
I thought I am third. You know.
Well, you're a better poet than Ernest Hemingway. A much better poet than Ernest Hemingway. Yeah, yes, I said.
I never met Ernest. I've never heard him at an open mic, so I really couldn't. You know, I've read some of his work, but I really cannot judge a poet. I hear him live, so this has really been kind of challenging to hear.
I remember you reading Hemingway's Wife, and giving me like a running review of the book while you were reading it. And you liked it a lot. And it made me read that book, Hemingway's Wife, or Hemingway's Woman, or something like that.
Hemingway's. Oh yes, I do remember. Yeah, that was a good read. Interesting. Yeah, he wasn't the easiest person to get along with.
Yeah, Judith Kaufman asked the question: did Hemingway write poetry? And Hemingway's first book was a poetry book. It was 3 stories and 10 poems, I believe. And you should take a look at it because it's one of the strangest books of poetry there are. He writes a poem about building a pile of manure, actually human excrement, to another poet, and he writes a poem about how much he likes Canadians. That's a cute poem. That's why I put Lynn way ahead of Ernest Hemingway any day. Anyways, this is Lynn West. She runs a reading at the Stupek Cabin. Stupy. Let me write that down. Stupy Cabin.
And then P-E-E-E.
Okay, in Highland Park, and it's the only ongoing live open mic in Chicago right now. Lynn, you were born in Cicero, and you lived a lot in Westmont, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And where did you first start reading poetry?
At the Brood Awakening Cafe.
At the Brood Awakening Cafe in Westmont, right across from the railroad tracks. And they were doing a reading with the Illinois State Poetry Society there.
Right.
Wilda Morris was the MC.
Wilda Morris there, and we co-shared a mic one time. I remember that was a lot of fun. And it was a very nice place. I haven't been back there in a while, and I believe that's where I met you.
Maybe.
You were featured there.
It might have been a feature, but it might have been at another reading. I'd have to really think about it. I remember you.
Was it the reading that we drank red wine together at? Was that we met?
No, it wasn't that reading. And then you dragged me out to the Naperville Writers Group. You were involved with them.
Where did I drag you?
Naperville Writers Group.
Yes, we went there. That was very good. A lot of good poetry in the southwest suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy that, and would like to get back. But I hope maybe some people could possibly August 15th. And, bring a picnic or something. It's very close to the lake. To make a day of it would be nice if the weather is good. It's 4 blocks away from the lake, and our beaches are open. So, you could go to the beach, have a picnic, listen to some poetry. It's really, the North Shore is, we're being safe and following the rules, but with social distancing, we're allowing outside pretty readily.
What time is your reading?
From 3 to 5.
From 3 to 5. Is there an alternate place in case it rains, or is it dependent on the weather?
It will be dependent on the weather, and then the next weekend. We'll have it the next weekend if it rains.
Okay, so it'll be delayed until the 15th plus 7, the 22nd if it rains. Now, Highland Park also has a magazine called East on Central.
Yes, on Central. And that's, I'm on the board of East on Central, and the poetry community in Highland Park is really fantastic. We have East on Central that publishes prose, poetry, and art, and is very active. Actually, they have a publication party that's going to be coming up let's see, what do we have here? We'll go to the eastoncentral.org.
A live publication party?
No, it's going to be a virtual.
Okay.
Tuesday, October 13th is the tentative date. So we're going to have a publication party that way, which is, we're doing the best we can. We can publication parties with music. My friend Dr. Charles Smith played, and I sang for the last one, and plenty of wonderful nosh and, socialization. Our publication parties have like 300 people, 200 to 300 people that come. So they're really quite nice. But we're doing the best we can, and we'll have a nice Zoom publication party, and then the book will be available as well. It's wonderful. And then also Highland Park poetry. So we have 2 is and hosts with Highland Park poetry. So between East on Central, Highland Park poetry, and our art center, it's really a very supportive community.
Can you give us a poem?
I will give you a poem.
Because I'm running out of juice on my phone. You can't hear that, but the audience can.
I have a couple 2 short poems if we have time. But I will start out with one. Kathleen had mentioned beach poets. So I wrote this today, and the name of the poem title is "The Waves Whisper." Sagging feet lag behind lost loves. The lonely voice of the wave whispers. Birds banter back and forth, not letting me get a word wise. Breezes breathe and tossle trees. Their tresses sadly sway as the wind has its way. Standing tall and defiant, branches creak, bemoaning nature's fate. Steps drawn to the demanding voice. I continue. No sailors in sight to witness my delight. I sit alone, whimper and moan. The beach bellows and throws itself at me. My hungry flesh responds to pounding aggression. I am wet all over, panting as waves wash. My sorrows are clean. No one can resist you, Poseidon, king of mermaids. I sit quietly. The whispers roar. Whitecaps lap my thirsty shore. Crest and barrel me over. I cry for more. I am embraced by something bigger than myself. A pebble tossed into madness and returned. Small payment and deep lessons learned.
Well,
So that's my poem of today.
I might steal something from that. That's a compliment if I want to steal something from it. This is Lynn West. She runs a reading at the Stoopy Cabin up in Highland Park on the 3rd Saturday of every month. And the next one's going to be on August 15th. And we have minutes left here, Lynn, so give us another poem.
Okay, now this is kind of a silly little thing. It's called Ration Passion. Squeeze, don't tease. Don't you sneeze? Sniffle if you dare. Wear a mask, sip a flask. Sport it with a flair. Home from school, parent be cool. Grow in sister fight. Locked inside, cannot hide. Wanting to take flight. Grocery store, not a chore. Parties in the line. Carts are full. Weary pull. Reading limit signs. Social as we prance at the Target store. Poets write without fright. Judgment Day has come. Words still play as we pay, and we all look dumb. Who'd have guessed? Nature's best, humbled in a flash. Still we pay, seize the day, with our plastic cash. Now we sit, as we lit, sins of greed and air, and reflect the effect. How much can we bear? Now, my friend, is the end measured at our rate. We must try not to lie or steal this planet's fate. Did that get cut off?
What?
Oh, I didn't have it on speaker. That's what happened. But you heard me, correct?
Yes. In the audience,
Oh, okay.
I believe the audience heard you.
Good.
So,
Good.
If the audience didn't heard you, this is going to be up for a couple. This is going to be up for a while. It's going to be there. It's going to be online for a while. So if they cut out, they could come back and take a look at it. Anyways, Lynn, thank you for being on, and I hope we could get tons of.
It's really a pleasure, and thank you so much for keeping everybody together and keeping poetry alive.
Well,
and
there's a couple of us. There's a conspiracy going on that you don't know about. There's a couple of us that got together and said we've spent a lot of time building something here in Chicago, and we don't want to, let it fade away, let it fade back in the background. And we've been kind of working to keep the poetry scene together, but that's a secret. We may recruit you as one of the agents.
I see. Could I be a secret agent?
You could be a secret agent. Anyways, let me talk to you in a couple days, and I'll have you back on the show in a couple weeks. You're doing your reading 2 weeks from now, and we'll follow up on you after the reading.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Okay, we'll talk to you later, Lynn.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I don't know if you guys heard that little beep, 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 beep. And we beat the battery. Yes, we need new battery technology going on here in America. And I've been working on that, but I can't invent a new battery. I'm not like that's not something that I'm busy doing. I'm busy trying to save the environment. I'm busy trying to do stuff like that. I'm busy trying to sell poetry books. Judith Kaufman, it was nice to meet you, Judith. I don't know if we've ever physically met. I don't know if we're allowed to physically meet in the future. But thanks for listening. And Mike, thanks for being on the show. I mean, I'm going to be working on this, and Emily will have you up here one of these days, and I'll put up some pictures of the artwork you did of my poetry. That St. Charles reading we did was so much fun, and they rolled out the red carpet for us, Emily, and it was a great reading, a great fun reading. And Judith, we may have I met everybody at least once, but I mean I I'm like a pariah. I come and go all the time, and I fade into the darkness, and I put my hand in front of the screen and block the darkness off. Okay, anyways, I think I'll be back next Monday. Don't know what's going on yet. I do a lot of other things, and for the last 4 weeks, I've been pretty busy repairing a piece of industrial equipment. And so I'm back here because everybody wants back here. And I'm going to work on getting a new camera and maybe getting some way to do a better Zoom broadcast than I have been doing. I've been working on trying to do a split screen on Facebook Live, and it has not worked out very well. So I don't think that this new technology is ready for us. And we push it to the limits, and we push Facebook Live to the limits, and we push Zoom to the limits, because we're artists. And artists can't be stopped, really, no matter what kind of art it is. We will find a way to get our stuff out to the public and to get our work out to the places where it belongs. I really believe that artists aren't self-indulgent. Artists are here because they want to communicate their artwork, their ideas, their images. They want to get out to other people, and they reach out through their artwork. They don't... If you do artwork and you have it and you hide it in a closet, you're not being a real artist. The real artist gets out there, and the real artist gets out there to do stuff and give it to the people out there. Wow, that's a pretty neat finger image. I gotta remember that. Anyways, I'll probably see you guys next Monday, and I might talk to some of you guys before then. And keep up the artwork, and keep art alive, and keep poetry alive in Chicago. And Wilda, love you, Wilda. You got that great Puican poem. I can't even talk today. I've talked too much. You got that great Moby Dick book, and I treasure my copy of that. And anyways, thank you for everybody. And Emily, we'll see you soon. And thank you for being on, Jeff. Thank you for being on, Lynn. Thank you for being on, Michael. And then thank you for being on, Kathleen. And we'll get all of you back here soon. And I'm going to sign out. This will be available for you guys to watch for a while. And thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.